Listen to this loudspeaker that I made. It's much like this commercial unit that you can buy, except I made this out of an old peanut butter jar, some paper, some wire, and a magnet. I'll show you how to make your own, and you can jam your own tunes. That's coming up next. I want to show you the construction of the speaker real quick before we get started building it. Let's look at the front of this commercial speaker. This is an early prototype that I built before I made my other speaker. This paper cone travels up and down, and that's actually what allows the sound to be produced. And on my homemade one, I just used paper. And more on that in a minute. Let's go ahead and flip it over on this side. And inside here you can't see it, but on this one there's actually a coil of wire that goes around this part, and I just used this enamel coated wire that I took out of old electronics. I actually took this part out of the circuit board and unwrapped it and then wrapped it around here, and you'll see that in the construction. And then the other part of this is this magnet, and this fits in this tube that is surrounded by this coil of wire that I just talked about. On this speaker you can't see it, but the way it works is the cone is attached by a frame to this end, and the magnet is attached to the frame on the opposite end. And when you put power from your amplifier on these two wires, it energizes this coil of wire into a magnet, and then it opposes this by AC current, and it allows it to vibrate like this, and that's what gives you your sound. So now that we've taken a look at the parts, let's go ahead and get building this. I wanted to show you real quick how the magnet can affect the sound quality. Let's take my peanut butter jar lid off here, and you can hear how the sound goes away. You can see I've got a small rare earth magnet on this bolt, and I made it adjustable so it could go in and out of this tube, and it's very critical for good sound quality. Listen how just putting it up there will bring the sound in. And by adjusting this, listen to that. So the placement of the magnet inside the coil is quite critical for good sound quality. Anyway, that's just a quick demo. Let's get building this thing. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is pick out a container, and it's better to have one with like a lid on it. This is like a butter bowl or something. It came out of a Chinese restaurant. On my first one I made it out of a peanut butter jar, and I just cut the top of it off, you know, like this would work just fine. Anyway, once you have your jar or your container picked out, you're going to want to decide how big to make the cone, the paper cone for it, which is here. So what I do is I just estimate and then add some, because on my first one I made it too small. So what I would recommend is just overshooting this. You can always trim it down. So you can see I'm going to set my calipers fairly big. I mean, it could be like this. This is just a compass. Anyway, I'm going to go about like that. That way if I cut this down some, I'll still have a little extra. So then you find your center hole and you just draw a line like this anywhere and cut down to it like this. And I got to get some glue. I'll be back. Okay, so I have my cone cut here. Now this is not an exact science. You just gonna have to kind of figure it out as you go, but depending on how you pull this cone closed is, you know, how big the cone's going to be. And on my first one, let's see, I just did a modest size cone and I thought that turned out well, so it works. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to just pull it in like that and draw a line on here, just a reference line for me, and then I'll know how much glue to put on this. You know, and just get some school glue or hot glue or whatever you have. This is just Elmer's all-purpose glue, and then make your cone. And you don't want to put tape or anything on this. You want this to be as flexible as possible. So I would just leave it like that to dry. And I'm going to go ahead and get my knife out, and we're going to cut this off about halfway. So I'm going to say just roughly about 2 inches high. So I'm going to get my knife and cut this 2 inches. Now if you notice, you'll see that the paper cone overlaps a little bit, and that's good because we need something, you know, we need to fold this over and glue this down on here. We need to attach this, so you want your cone to be a little bit overhang. Okay, next up. All right, so I've got my container here, and what I did off camera is I drew a ring the same size as the bottom of my container. You can see it just fits like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this lid back on here for strength to keep it stiff as possible. And we're going to attach this to here using our pencil line that we drew on the back. So what I'm going to do to help is to put slits in this along here so it'll be easier to fold over. So I'm just going to take my scissors and every so often, you know, slit the paper up to that line. So I'm just going to bend these over and begin to tape it down. And try to keep this centered. It's pretty important that your cone, this part of the cone, is in direct center with this cap. Okay? And you'll see why here later. Anyway, let me go ahead and get this tape on here. Okay, we just took some electrical tape and taped our cone on. This is what the cone looked like when we tried to use, you know, hot glue. And this worked too, but you're just gonna have to play with methods. The idea is just to make sure that all the sides are sealed and this cone can move. Okay, let's go ahead and get on with the voice coil construction. Now you're gonna need a rare earth magnet, and that's what this one is here. Little tiny thing. This is about 1/4 inch. And you can use more or less in size, but this size worked well for our demo. And you'll take your rare earth magnet and just put it on the tip of a 1/4 inch bolt like that, okay? See how that is? Now, what we need to do is find a drill bit that will fit this and be a little bit loose, okay? Now, I've got a chart here, and if you don't have one of these, you can just go through your drill bits and find one that's a little bit bigger than the magnet, and that seems to be that one in this case. And that one is 5/16. So I've got my drill bit here, and I put it in my drill. And the reason why we're doing this is going to help us wind the wire, okay? Okay, so what we're going to do now is make our tube for our voice coil. And I have just an index card here. This is like a cardboard. And I'm going to take approximately 2 inches of that by 5 inches, and just cut a strip here, like that. And what we're gonna do is wrap it around our drill. Okay, there you go. And we can slide this off and check to be sure that our magnet fits inside there, which it does. See? That's what we want. We want it just a little bit bigger than the tube itself. So this is an inductor. This looks like a tuning coil or something like that I took out of some old electronics. And this is just coated copper wire with enamel. And I've got it in my helping hand so I can help pull it off the rail like this, see? Now you don't have to do this step, but it makes it a lot easier. So I'm gonna put my helping hands up like this. I've got my wire here. You can also buy this coated wire at Radio Shack or get it online. And I'm gonna take another tiny piece of tape. Okay, got just a little tiny piece of tape. And I'm gonna pull out some of the wire. Now you're going to want to leave quite a bit. I'm going to leave maybe 4 or 5 inches, and I'm going to tape it right to the very end of this cardboard tube. That'll hold it there while I get it started. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it in my drill. And I should mention too that the copper wire, the thinner stuff is better. Thinner is better in this case. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start rolling this and evenly, I'm gonna put the wire on there about 1 inch, 1.5 inches down the shaft and just keep it uniform. And you want about 200 turns. Okay, so I've got my tape on that I covered up the wire with, and here's my 2 ends here. Make sure you got plenty. Probably can't see that on the camera, but there's real fine wire right there. Okay, now I can take my drill bit out and on to the next step. Okay, so I wanted to show you real quick what I've done here. I've connected larger wires to the small copper wires, and I did that because I want to hook an amplifier up to this, and it would be very difficult to connect an amplifier up to these small wires. You can barely see them, they're here. And I should also note that these coated varnished wires, you must remove the coating off them first before you can solder them. Anyway, that's what this is all about, and this is just a connector that I had. You don't have to use this, it just makes it easier. So I've got 1 wire going to each. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to mount our coil to the bottom of our cone, and we have to make sure that we do this very accurately. And I'm going to use hot glue and stick it on just like that. Now, we want this to be a certain length, and you can see that I've already marked it with a pen, and I came up with that by putting the coil down on the cone and then just roughly eyeballing across where the lid will be, here, like that. And the lid will have our magnet on it, okay? And that's why we're doing it this way. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and split this with a knife, and you'll see how I'm going to attach it with my hot glue. What we did just as a test is we actually hooked this up and we've stuck the magnet inside, and you could hear a very faint sound coming out this tube. And we think that that's probably how they make earbuds, which is pretty interesting. So what I'm going to do is fold these back to the line. Looks like a shotgun went bad. And I'm going to trim this up some too. Don't need all this length on it. Okay, so again, the trick to this is to mount it as squarely as I can and in the center to the cone like this. And I'm going to use hot glue because I know that will be really secure. Okay, so this is glued on there, nice and centered, and I popped a little hole here in the side, right there. And what I'm going to do is just run my wires through there right now. And be careful you don't break your little copper wires, they break easy. Okay, we're coming down to the finish line. We've got our wires all tucked away and coming out the hole here. Now, I just took the lid and I put a bolt through here with 2 nuts on it to capture it. And you can adjust these nuts so you can bring this in and out and change the depth that this magnet goes into this tube. And you'll see why that's important in a minute. But basically, you just want it to fit down in there. And then again, you'll adjust this to tune it. And this is just my design. There's other ways to do this, but it works. So let me go ahead and turn the music on, and then I'll move this in and out, and you can see the difference. Here we go. So I'm going to just play with the lid here. That's without any magnet. A little closer. So right about there is optimal. Not bad for a couple pennies worth and a piece of paper. And this design isn't that pretty, but it works. Let's go out for some final thoughts. Well, it's not very pretty, but it sure works. And I'm surprised. I mean, I've never made one of these before. I understand the theory, but to make one, I encourage you to do the same. It kind of opens your eyes on really how simple audio is. As far as the amplifier and how I hook this up, you can see that these 2 alligator clips go to the coil that we made earlier. And these just go into my regular audio amplifier that I use for my computer. And I'm just playing, you know, internet tunes is what I'm doing on a single channel. And it's that simple. I just turn my computer up to full bore and let it play through here. Again, I encourage you to make this. It's a very exciting project and you'll learn a lot. And you could probably make a lot nicer looking one than this one. Maybe in the future we'll go ahead and 3D print a proper one and use the right magnets and wire and see if we can't get a precision speaker. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comments. And let me know what you think about this project if you like it, and give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Hope you got some use out of this video. Bye for now.